What's up YouTube, Dell here from Zephyr, and today as requested I am bringing you a budget look at Labrynth. Now unfortunately I don't have all of the physical cards together, so I thought I'd bring you a dueling book list. It also means that I can share this list and put it in the link in the description below so that you can build it, change around with it, test it out and see what you see fit for your personal environment and your personal playstyle. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So I'm going to take you through the Labrynth list. The best thing about this deck is I've also tried to keep it within like ban list possibilities. Like the only card you play in the main deck that may or may not get hit is your big welcome Labrynth. But even then, I feel the one that is more logically going to get hit, especially when we've already got confirmed support in the future, is going to be Eradicator, which you'll see I've put in the side deck. So all of these, apart from Big Welcome Labrynth, was reprinted in the Mega set. Everything else that is like your staple cards, so stuff like Dogmatic Punishment, Ice Dragon Prison, Ash Blossom, Imperm, Skill Drain, all of that has already had a recent reprint, and some of these will also be reprinted in the Anniversary Rarity set, which comes out in November. So you start off with two of your Lady Labrynth of the Silver Castle. Now this is like such an insane card. Like before we even get to the Butler, which is due out, I believe, in either October in the OCG or it will be October in the TCG. Like the card's insane. It just lets you set and then play a trap card that turn 0. So you can like D-barrier on the very first turn, which is crazy. But what makes Lady Labrynth so good is while you control a set card, your opponent cannot target this card with card effect, so no Imperm, no Veilers, all good. It can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effect, nice little bonus. And if a Labrynth card or effect of a normal trap card was activated this turn, except Fire herself, you get to special summon her from the hand, which is absolutely insane. And then when a normal trap card is activated, you get to set a normal trap card with a different name directly from your deck. So that's why you can play a lot of one-of normal trap cards, because you're able to set them directly from the deck. Some people decide to play the trap cards quite like hand traps. You adapt it to your local environment. If you feel your local environment is susceptible to D-barrier, then you can main deck that. If you feel that it is susceptible to like a more direct interruption, then you can do that. And it's also why I choose to play generic cards like Dogmatic Punishment. A lot of people don't play that, but I like the fact that it should, within reason, be a free 2 for 2 or 1 for 2, because you'll lose your punishment, but then you get to pop with the punishment and pop with Elder Entity Ints as well. So I think it's a nice little form of interruption. You then play the one lovely Labrynth of the Silver Castle. Now this one is obviously the one that you get to summon out of the deck, and when you get to it, you rip one from your opponent's hand, more times than not, because usually you've already picked their board apart. Then, of course, you've got your Ariana. This is obviously your main normal summon of the deck. You add a Labrynth card from the deck to the hand, except itself. So that's why you can play lesser copies of stuff like your Lady Labrynth, because you can search it when you need it. You do get a nice little draw effect when you activate a normal trap card, but you're 9 times out of 10 going to be paying Pot of Extravagance. I feel that A is the cheaper option, and B, when you don't, like, especially in this build, the most expensive card outside of what I'm showing you here is, of course, Chaos Angel. But that's like 40 quid, and I believe it might be rising because of the reprints of Labrynths. So when you're playing Pot of Prosperity, you're trying to avoid banishing that. But you can play Extrav because you don't really care about anything in the extra deck like that much. Most of your boss monsters and control plays come from the main deck. So it really does give you the ability to play Extrav, which, in my opinion, when you don't care about the extra deck, Extrav is the better one, just because it's that draw 2 rather than the 1 of 6. But then it really does come down to personal preference. Some people prefer Prosperity, some people not. And then, of course, we're playing the furniture. So you've got your Chandelier, you've got your Stovey, and then, of course, you've got your Cuckoo Clock. So that gives you the total of 8 of these cards. Now, again, all of these got reprinted in commons from the Mega Tin, so very easy to get a hold of. And what makes these so good is they give you the ability, well, Cuckoo Clock gives you the ability to activate a normal trap card the turn it was set if you control a Labyrinth monster. And these are quick effects from the hand, which is really important. And then Stovey gives you the ability to discard this card and one other card to set a Labrynth spell or trap directly from your hand or deck. So again, that's getting you to Big Welcome Labrynth and, of course, Welcome Labrynth. And then, of course, the Chandelier. Again, you get to send this card from the hand or field and discard a card to set a Labrynth spell and trap. So you've got a lot of plays to be utilizing to kind of get you to your traps, and your big welcome is what is like such a good card for the entire deck. So we'll breeze over the spells. Now obviously the spells, like I said, was Extrav, one of the field spell. You don't need any more than this. You get it when you want it, and then one call by. So for the trap cards, I'll start with Big Welcome Labrynth. This is the only one that you're really going to have to kind of go out on a limb for. I think they're currently like £15 a copy. Annoyingly, they were like £4 a copy before the reprints because they didn't know whether Big Welcome was going to be in it or not. I mean, it was 99% confirmed that it wasn't. But now if you want to be playing Labrynth, you're going to need this card. So you special summon a Labrynth monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, then return one monster you control to the hand. So that's how you can bounce back your Lady Labrynth, because then you can summon it again. So it just gives you free resource management, or you bring back the Ariana and you can use that one again later on. It also has the amazing effect that you can banish this card from the graveyard, target one fiend monster you control, or if you control a level 8 or higher fiend, you can target one card your opponent controls instead and return that card to the hand. So a nice little bounce as well. And then, of course, onto your Welcome Labrynth. A lot of builds, you only really need to be playing 2 of this. You can play 3 if you don't have 3 big welcomes, because again, like I said, the big welcomes are about £15 each. I still feel that you can very easily build this entire deck, and maybe even the entire extra deck, for $100 or less, which is basically like buying a new structure deck, and then kind of upgrading that where you need to. So this one, of course, lets you special a lab from the deck, but you don't need to bounce anything. You are locked into fiends from the extra deck, for the entire turn or from that point onwards. And then if a monster leaves the field by your normal trap effect while this card is in the graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you get to reset it to the board. So it just kind of loops its resource back. And then you're pretty much opening up the door to any normal trap card that can give you some form of utility. Like I said, in my personal build, I've gone for Dogmatic Punishment. I just like the 1-for-2 trade, and I don't plan to be going into the extra deck. Obviously, a lot of builds that are playing Chaos Angel won't play this because, again, they want to go into Chaos Angel, whereas you really don't care because you're not playing Chaos Angel anyway. So being able to utilize a trap card like this can be incredibly powerful. Ice Dragon's Prison. Again, these are all normal trap cards that you can get set off of your Lady Labrynth. I've decided to play Punishment and Ice Dragons at 2, but again, you can very easily play these at 1 and then put in some other normal trap cards. A lot of lists are playing Eradicator. I decided not to, for the pure fact that you could be looking at this getting hit on the ban list. So I wanted to make a list that was relatively future-proof within reason, so that you had the ability to get everything you needed. And then we're going to move on. So, of course, a deck like this, when you've got heavy, strong monsters at 3,000, 2,900, and then the only one you really want to use the effect on the field is Ariana, you can utilize a card like Skill Drain. So, pretty standard on that one. Don't need to talk much more on that. And then for your other generic trap cards that we're playing, obviously D-Barrier, you only need to play 1 of it, because if you do get into a matchup where you're like, okay, cool, well, D-Barrier is going to put in a lot of work for me on this one, you're only playing 1 of it. So it's like, okay, well, if I need it, I'll search it. If I don't, then I don't need to touch it. And then you can side it out for game 2 and 3. Terrors of the Underroots, again, another card that got a nice little reprint. It's a shame this didn't get upgraded. But you get to target a card that your opponent controls and 1 card in the graveyard. You send that target on the field to the graveyard, and if you do, you set the other target to the set the other target from the graveyard to your opponent's field. Now, another generic trap card that also did get reprinted in the Mega Teams is the Daruma Cannon. That is a very good card because it helps you kind of break boards apart, which is really, really important in this deck, especially when you're utilizing something like Skill Drain. So I'm just going to, if I can spell it correctly, search this one out for you as well so you can see what it is. So it got upgraded into a secret rare from the Mega Tins. It was originally an ultra rare, so again, it's going to be very, very easy to get hold of, and it is a TCG exclusive. So change as many monsters on the field as possible to face down defense. Then if either player controls a face up monster or monsters, they must send all face up monsters they control to the graveyard. So it kind of lets you clear out link monsters, so this can very easily go in place of either one of your punishments or one of your Ice Dragon Prison. And the last card that I've put in as a generic trap card as personal preference is Dark Sacrifice. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with this, when your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy a card or cards on the field, so Lightning Storm or Harpy's Feather Duster, negate the effect and then send 1 level 3 or lower dark monster from your deck to the graveyard. So it lets you put Stovey, it lets you put Cuckoo Clock, or of course Chandel Dragon into the graveyard. Now, keeping in mind the chandelier and of course stove, you can recycle themselves to the board, so you're actually getting a bit more resource from it. And I thought it was a really kind of cool card that if we're moving into games 2 or 3, or if I highly expect that my opponent is main decking Lightning Storms or Dusters, then I can very easily access this card and sort out one big problem. Then they might be able to go, okay, cool, Duster, blow out the back row. Now, 9 out of 10, when they Duster and blow out the back row, you do have enough resource to kind of regain what you've just lost, so it's not the end of the world, but it just means that it's one less thing you need to worry about. And again, it depends on your local environment. Not to mention, it can also stop other cards that will attempt to destroy, but entirely up to you. And then the hand traps, of course, Ash Blossom, it's a local environment, and then Imperm, normal trap card. What more do you really need? So you can, again, adapt this, like you've got Draw on Lockbirds, you've got Ghost Spells, Ghost Mourners in some cases as well, depending on what you want to go for. And then for the extra deck, of course, literally I've just got a couple of targets for punishment. You could play the Evil Twin Monster, because then you get to activate this one to banish it from the graveyard, and then you get to basically double send. Then you've got your Fiend Lock option, so your Cerberus, your Phoenix, your Unicorn, your Abomination. You got Linkaribo and Anima if you get Ibly locked, or if they play into the zones, because then you can turn a Cuckoo Clock into one of these. Muckcracker, again, this got a nice little reprint in the Megatin, so relatively easy to pick up. Dark the Dark Charmer, and then of course Underworld Goddess. Now, because you're playing Extrav, you can actually minimize this and go, right, okay, well, my only important ones that I'm going to be playing, and through personal play testing and everything else, is going to be Elder Entity Ints, it's going to be Abomination, Unicorn, and Muckcracker, with a couple of others in between. Then you can very easily adapt it as you see fit. So it does give you a very nice option for flexibility, which is what makes it so good. But ultimately, you don't even need to worry about the extra deck that much. You could very easily put in some super poly targets, which can be incredibly dangerous. Again, depending on what your local environment is like, just being able to rip their board apart with a super poly can be game changing. So that's it for the main and extra. When it comes down to side deck, it's entirely up to you. At the moment, Eradicator is definitely an option you're going to want to be considering if you can get hold of it. Everything else from that point on really comes down to local environment, normal trap cards you can utilize, and maybe what the banish will show in the future. Anyway, I hope this has given you a nice little kind of lowdown on what you can get through the Megatins, thanks to Labrynth, how you can keep it on a tidy budget of $100 or less, which works out around about £80 or less, which is pretty much what we end up showing for structure decks, and the deck can compete at the highest level. The deck can still do quite well if you are restricted from not being able to pick up big welcome Labrynths at like £45 for the set. If you're restricted to £30 for the set, it's still playable. Otherwise, you're probably going to want to hold off until the ban list, see what shakes up, but then you are running the risk that if this deck goes through unscathed, then that card could possibly creep up even higher, because the next expected reprint for that is not going to be until next year. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you do have any questions, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. But for now, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.